Welcome back to the channel. On this episode I'm going to be installing the countertop for the kitchen. I've decided to go for an 18mm pine worktop, and the reason I've decided to go for an 18mm pine worktop is because of the weight. I didn't want a heavy 40mm worktop, butcher block worktop, because that's quite a lot of weight in the van. I'm trying to keep the weight down in the van, so one way of cutting down on the weight will be the worktop. So the idea is to fit the countertop on here. I'm going to have a 2-burner hob here. So I've got a cutout for the 2-burner hob, and I'm going to have to cut out for the mini Belfast sink. And this is the countertop. It's a pine countertop. So it's an 18mm countertop that I'm going to be installing. The depth of this countertop is going to be 2 feet. So as you can see, I've just put it in place, and it's pretty much the exact depth that I want for the countertop. The overhang of the countertop is 2 inches. I've got about 1 inch that I can play with. Right now it's overhanging by about 3 or 4 feet. I'm going to cut it down to size. The countertop is now cut, and I've cut it roughly to 63 inches, and it's overhanging here by maybe 2 inches. I didn't cut it flush because I'm going to scribe it in down here, and I'll scribe it in to the back wall here. But before that, what I'm going to do is, because it's overhanging so much, it's overhanging by 1 3/4 inches, and as you can see, I've just popped in the farmhouse sink here, and I want the lip of the countertop to be coming out maybe 15mm, but I want this farmhouse sink to be actually coming out further, so it'll give a nice finish to the countertop. This here 43mm, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 20mm off the back here, 20mm, and that'll allow me then to sit it in, and that will then, it'll move closer to the window by 20mm. Then I will make a lip that's 20mm in width and maybe like 1.5 inches high. So if you ever have anything when you're working on the countertop, anything rolls, that's not going to roll out towards the window and potentially smash the window. So that lip will run all the ways along the window. So it's going to be, this countertop will overhang 20mm towards the window, and then that will give me the base for the lip that I'm going to create. So what I'm going to do to take the 20mm off the back is I'm going to use this scribing tool. It's called a Trend Easy Scribe. What I'm going to do to get the 20mm off the back wall here is, instead of cutting the 20mm and then scribing it, I can set this scribing tool to 20mm. So if I take the measurement from the pencil, so that's a pencil, and then what you do is you set it like this, just using this wheel, you twist it, and then you make it wider until you've got your, say, roughly 20mm. So now that that's set to 20mm, the scribing tool, what I'm going to do is just run it along the back edge of the countertop. Now that's scribed, and that means that I should only have to cut it once. As you can see, it's taking the profile of the back wall, and then you basically transferred that onto the countertop. So then that should fit in there nicely. So I'm going to cut that now with a jigsaw. The countertop has now been scribed, so the back here is scribed in, and I'm very happy with how that's turned out. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out for the farmhouse sink, measure that up, and then cut it out with a jigsaw. sink has now been cut out for the countertop, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to router the edges of this countertop, and then I'm going to use the cutout as like a chopping board. I'm going to have it that I can actually slot it back in here and then use that whole counter. At the moment, with the way it is, I want to bring the countertop over this way slightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about a mil, literally just a mil. I want this edge to overhang slightly the sink, and this side I'm happy with, so it's literally just this a fraction to bring this over, and then I'm happy with the way this is looking. I've just taken a slight bit off here, and that will allow me then to push that back over, and it just closes that gap there. It's looking better on either side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to route the edge here to give it a nicer edge. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out for the tap. I've got a tap here. It's one of these pull down taps, and it's got an extendable hose on it. So I'm just going to have a quick read of the instructions and try and figure out how to fit it. So what I'm going to use to mark out the hole for the tap is this washer, because this washer actually is the correct size for the hole where that will actually slot down. Once the hole is drilled, I will slide this through the hole. From underneath I will put on this washer, slide it up, and then secure it underneath with this device. So I'm just going to find a wood drill bit this diameter and then mark out where I want the tap and then drill it. The countertop is now almost ready to be stained. There's just one or two more steps, and what I've got to do is cut a lip for the back of it and secure that on, and then I've also got to cut the countertop to size. So right now it's not cut to size, so I just gotta cut it a bit shorter. So I'm hoping I can keep on to this. So I want to hold on to that and have it that I can cover this up, and then that's only loosely fitted in, and then that means that all this area can be used as counter space, workspace. So the next thing I'm going to do before I put on this lip here at the back of the countertop, I'm going to cut these strips. So you can see that was just a temporary one that I had in place just to line everything up when I was building out the frame for the window. So now I'm going to cut the strips and actually fit them in place permanently, and I'm going to measure it up, cut the strip for that side, cut the strip for that side, and then cut the one for the top. I'm now cutting the plywood strips that I'm going to use to actually cover the framing for the window. So I'll just show you, I've done the top one so far, and you can see it there. There's the plywood strip is in there, and that's covered, and there's going to be a trim going along here, all along the edge. So I'm cutting a strip and resting it on these noggins, the wooden noggins that I installed for the window frame. And then what I'm doing is with a pencil, I'm running the pencil up along the window. That will then give me a profile of the window, and it will create like a 5mm gap the whole length of the window. So I'll have a gap because I don't want any of these plywood strips rubbing or touching off the window. This is my mad head. It's mid-December and I'm out in the van and it's dark, it's wet, it's cold. I got a big light on my head. There's a big light shining in my eyes. And I'm building a camper van. So here we go. This is as far as I've got with the countertop. Now that I have the window framed in and the counter is fitted and cut out for the sink, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut it to length now. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a router and I'm going to just chamfer the edges. Just put a small chamfer. If you can see it there in the front of that, there's a small chamfer. Just to take any sharp edges off it. And then once I have that done, I will be ready to sand this, and then I'm going to sand it down, and then I'm going to give it its first stain tonight. I've now given the countertop 3 coats of stain and varnish. It's a 2-in-1 Ronseal stain and varnish walnut. I'm happy with how it's looking, and now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a lip on the back edge of the worktop. And the reason I want the lip is because if you're washing up anything and if anything happens to roll towards the window, that lip is going to stop it from rolling off onto the window, potentially cracking the window. So what I have for the lip is 2x1, and what I've done is I've just rounded the edge of it with a router. So I just ran a router along the edge of it, and that's going to soften the edge of that, take the sharp edge off it. And now the next thing to do is, because it's a 2x1, the thickness of it is, say 1 3/4 of an inch. I'll take a 1/2 inch off it so it looks a lot nicer, because when it's too big it doesn't look nice. That's where it's going to go. But right now it's just a bit too tall, so I'm going to take a strip, take about a 1/2 inch off it with the skill saw, and then once I'm happy with that, I'm going to give it 3 coats of the stain and varnish, and then screw it on to the back of that from underneath. So I'll pilot hole and countersink it and screw it on from underneath. Now I'm on to the final stage of finishing the window frame. I had to wait until I installed the countertop so that I could actually then measure and cut the strips of ply that I've just showed you how to cut and measure. I decided to get this EvoStick multi-purpose white silicone. It's water resistant, it's antifungal, and I think I'll just fill in the holes, the screw holes, and then I'll paint over that with some weather shield paint, and then that should be the window frame completed, and then I can install the countertop, the worktop. So what I'll do is I'm going to fill it in first, then paint it over, and we will install the countertop. So let's go. I have the framing of the window complete, and I've given the first coat of paint. I've filled in all the screw holes with some white silicone. The next step is to sand it and give it a few more coats of paint, and then when the countertop is finished, I will fit the countertop. To complete this window frame, once the countertop is installed, what I'll do is get some wood trim, an L-shaped wood trim. That's to take the rough edges off the window frame. That's the end of this episode, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope it's going to give you some ideas and help you with your own van build. So if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the channel, and please remember to click the notification bell icon, and you'll be notified for future videos in the van build series. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Good luck.